It's Tuesday, October 20th, and this is Carrie's Brain. Hey, everybody. It's so nice to be here with you today. I gotta tell you, I had kind of planned on just skipping the podcast this week because I have tried for a week to figure out what I was going to talk about today. And it's crazy because I had all these ideas, and of course I didn't write them down. I should write things down, especially as I get older. I'm like the worst with stuff like that. And also my brain power is slowly fading. So remembering things is a little bit more difficult, but I had all of these ideas. And finally last night, I just thought, nothing is coming through this week. Like nothing feels right. And then there was this topic that I wanted to go with, but I wasn't quite ready to do it. And I'll explain to you why a little bit later in the podcast. But last night I decided, you know what? I'm just going to go forward with it. And so here I am, and I'm going to be talking about anxiety. And part of what made me want to talk about anxiety today was that I had a huge anxiety attack yesterday, and it's been on my mind a lot lately. I think that a lot of people I think that it's normal in society to have a little bit of anxiety in the background, especially as an adult, just because there's so much responsibility on your shoulders, be it working at a job where you're responsible for others, or you're responsible for, production of goods and services, or customer service, or whatever kind of service you might be providing. Or if you're a mom at home taking care of young children, or even if you're a mom at home taking care of old children, or if you're a man trying to deal with the stress of generating income for your family and taking care of your family's monetary needs, or you're a grandma or grandpa who are just, in the later stages of life and, stressed because of whatever reason, your children or current financial situations, or just maybe feeling like your role is not clear in society anymore like it used to be. There's a lot of reasons why people have anxiety, but especially with the pandemic going on, it feels like that's amplified a lot. And also with, the current political situation in our country as well, there is a lot of stuff to stress about. And so I want to talk about that today. And I'm going to start off with corny quotes because there's some good ones today that I want to talk about. So here comes corny quotes. Okay, corny quotes. I left them on my phone today. I can just use my phone. So, although it was fun throwing those note cards, checking those note cards in there. So, this first one that I want to talk about is, no amount of regret can change the past. No amount of anxiety can change the future. So just quickly, a lot of anxiety is produced because of something that we might have said to someone else, or an interaction that we might have done in the past, or something that we might have done wrong, or some situation that we might have missed out on. Regret breeds a lot of anxiety. And, especially with interactions with other people, in the last podcast, we talked a lot about not caring what people think about you in a really healthy way. And this kind of goes along with that. You really can't change the past, and stressing over it is not going to be helpful, right? Moving forward is what's most important. And that second part of the quote, that no amount of anxiety can change the future, worrying is not going to change anything. It's just going to keep putting things off. Like, I want to tell you, it's not embarrassing, but it's silly to me after thinking about the way that I felt yesterday. So, food is incredibly punishing for me because mainly just dinner time. Dinner time is where probably 90% of my anxiety of my day comes from, because I've been extremely grumpy about it in the past because I hate cooking dinner specifically. When you cook for young children, some kids are just fantastic eaters. Mine did not come to me super good eaters, which it's fine because I was a picky eater myself as a child. But it's hard when you put forth a bunch of effort into making a meal and then everybody, comes in, turns their nose up and doesn't eat it, right? And that happens a lot in my house. So then of course I stress, are my kids eating enough food? Am I giving them too many snacks? Are they getting too much sugar? Releases all of these things, right? And then of course doing dishes, and there are all of these things, it's like if I don't keep the kitchen clean, and then I know I have to go in and do the dishes before I make dinner, and then kids are going to come in and they're going to ask me, what are we having? And then I'm going to be angry. And it's like this negative situation that I've created for myself. So last night, and it's totally not healthy either, but that is neither here nor there. We're all working on things, right? So my baby usually nurses right before I start getting ready for dinner. And so I was in nursing her, and all of my family had gone outside to play together, and I was done nursing her, and I had been playing this really stupid dinky little game, one of those little jewel whatever games, while I was sitting and feeding her. And the whole entire time my anxiety is just building and building, pretty much with each level of that stupid game that I played, because I knew that it was bringing me closer and closer to the time when I'm going to have to go and face that gigantic pile of dishes and come up with something to make that I had no idea, right? It's like Sunday. If I'm missing something, I don't generally go to the store on Sunday. It's my Sabbath day, and so that's how I choose to keep that day holy. And I'm usually in this mind frame of I just don't want to deal with worldly things, including food, And so then my baby's done nursing and everybody's still outside, and I put the baby down and she goes over and plays with her toys, and I'm just sitting there continuing to play that game. And of course, I lose, and then I'm like, oh, I can just do one more. I'm going to just put this off a little bit longer. And the anxiety's building and building and building. And then finally, I decide to conquer that and go out and start making dinner. Well, the timing was perfect, and they all came in, and my husband, walked in and started helping me with the dishes. It was really nice. And we ended up having cereal for dinner. We just had cereal. I was sitting there trying to make rolls because, we were gonna have like yummy sandwiches or something like that. And as I walked over to, finish out putting the flour in and everything, I just looked up and I was like, we're having cereal. This is stupid. This is stupid that I'm feeling this way. We're just gonna have cereal. And so we had cereal, and poof, the anxiety it was gone. And that's perfectly fine, for that to happen every once in a while. And what's interesting about this quote and why those two relate is no amount of anxiety can change the future. Like, continually putting off facing that stupid thing of just getting dinner done and doing the dishes, the anxiety that I was feeling, I just kept pushing it farther and farther back, but it didn't change the situation, right? I still had to get out there and be an adult and figure it out, and it's so hard to just overcome that hill of anxiety and just push forward. It's so hard. And really what I should have done is just walked out and said to my husband, I need help. I am struggling. I'm struggling because people in our lives, for the most part, are more than willing to help us if we're just willing to say it. We have to say it, right? I need help. Okay. Fear is an interest paid on a debt that you may not owe. This is anonymous. Fear is an interest paid on a debt that you may not owe. That's something to think about. I'm going to leave that one to you guys. Worrying doesn't empty tomorrow of its sorrows. It empties today of its strengths. And that just goes right along with that story that I talked to you about. It just can paralyze you if you allow it to consume you. Oh, and you know what? I lost the last one. Oh, shoot. And it was really important. Oh, okay. Here we go. I was going the wrong direction. Okay. I really like this one. This is not the last one, but I forgot about this one. Do not believe the things that you tell yourself when you are sad and alone. We're like our worst enemies, right? We are our worst enemies when we are in situations where we're vulnerable. And that is like the ultimate vulnerable situation, is being sad and being alone, because then you're just left to your own thoughts. And I'm going to put this quote on my wall. I think that is such an important thing to remember, because like I said, interestingly enough, like now I can look back on my silly little anxiety episode and just think, wow, that was so silly. I should have just gotten up and I should have just walked into the other room and done the dishes, and it's fine. Or I should have not been so hard on myself and just been like, yeah, we're just going to have cereal. It's Sunday. Like, we're just enjoying ourselves and being together as a family. It doesn't have to be like this grand thing every single time for dinner, right? It's so easy to look back and just think, oh, that was such a silly way to feel. But when you're in the moment, it's difficult. Okay, this is the last one. You don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step. So now I want to talk about overcoming, and that's Martin Luther King. I'll say it one more time. You don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step. Martin Luther King. This is really sound advice, right? And with that, it's time for a story. Okay, so speaking of staircases, I want to tell you this story about me and my dad and my uncle. So we had plans for going on this really fun hike together up in the Grand Teton Mountains. If you don't know where that's at, it's kind of like Wyoming, Idaho area, Wyoming. And me and my dad had always wanted to go on this hike. It's called Devil's Staircase. And we didn't end up going on that particular hike. We went on a hike that was near it, and it was really super long. It was like 22 miles. We had planned on staying overnight. I had never done a backpacking trip where, you carry all your stuff with you, you sleep, and then, you're like going through the mountains. And the first day was it was so amazing. Like it was so much fun. It was so beautiful, and I had so much energy, and we were just like, the flowers, and there were raspberries, and I was like climbing up these random paths, like up on top of rocks, and just like a child having fun, right? Well, by the end of the day, we were super tired because we had gone a long way and climbed, a great amount of elevation in the meantime. And we ended up at this little lake, and it was so pretty. There were a lot of other people there, and they were much faster than us. So that was kind of like the place where you stay the night. And so they had kind of gotten all of the good spots, and we were so tired that we could barely even make it, into the kind of trees. It wasn't even like into the trees. Most of the spots in the trees were taken. And so we were kind of just stuck in the sagebrush. And we had these tube tents and everything, and they were great. We were so tired. It was like we ate our food, we chatted for a little while, and then we just put our tube tents around our sleeping bags and just went to bed. Well, I literally think I had to pee probably, I'd say 15 times that night. Like, I was freezing cold. I was in this mummy bag that it wasn't mine. I couldn't pull my feet up to my chest. I was so cold. And the tube tent was like collecting the dew and making my sleeping bag wet. And even though it was waterproof, it was still cold. It was making it colder than what it should have been. So I slept awful. Come the next day, it's finally time to get up, and we eat breakfast, and there is a mountain that I have to climb. It's like you can see that it is the only way to get out of this bowl. And I'm just like, oh, how am I going to do this? I'm already tired. We still have like 10 miles to go. I'm going to die here. Like, I felt like I was going to die there. And I just wanted to cry. I think I did cry. I'm pretty sure I woke up and was just like crying, and my dad came over and was like, "Are you okay?" No, I'm not okay. I'm going to die. And so we eat breakfast, we get all of our stuff packed up, and we start going up this mountain. And I'm just thinking to myself, okay, if I can just get up this mountain, then I can just do it. I can just do it, just one step at a time, right? So we're just going, right? And we finally get out, and I just get energized and think, I did that really hard thing. This is great. I'm so proud of myself. And of course, that was only like the first half mile of the like 9 or 10 miles that we needed to go that day. But all throughout, there were points where I was just like jazzed and energized, and it was so beautiful. And by the end, it was like I've never been so tired in my life. Never. Not even after having children, not after, never. So tired. And I just remember seeing my dad's feet in front of me and just watching his feet. And I just thought, as long as his feet just keep moving, I'm not even going to look anywhere else. I don't even care how beautiful it is. Like, I'm just going to look at his feet and just keep moving. And there are some times in our lives where we are just not thinking about anything else. We're just trying to move forward, right? And it can be so difficult. It can be the hardest thing that you ever have to do, to just barely even move forward. But you can, as long as you just take it one step at a time. I love this quote. I just think that it's so fantastic. You really don't, I mean, I think that if I woke up this morning and I had done that hike before and I knew what I was getting myself into, I might have turned around. If even that, I might have turned around and just been like, we're going back, we're going down. I'm not going up anymore, I'm going down. And I think that sometimes in our life, we talk about having the big picture all the time. There is small and rare occasions where having the big picture just is not going to work. Like, you really just have to focus on just getting through this particular moment, and then you can go back to the big picture of things. I have another hiking story. Hiking stories are great as far as like relating them to moving forward in life, right? So I don't remember how old I was. I'm pretty sure that I was a young woman, and we were camping with a girls group up in the Tetons again, same place. And there's this really cool hike. It's called Table Rock, and it's beautiful. And when you get to the very last part to where you get to the actual Table Rock is so hard, because you can see it. You get up on the ledge and you can see Table Rock, and you know it's going to be so awesome, and you know it's going to be so fantastic. And it takes forever to get there. It's like forever, and you're in the sun. There's like hardly any trees, and it takes so much longer than you ever think it's ever going to take. And so we get probably to the very base of it, and my mom is exhausted. Like, I went with my mom. She was one of my leaders, and she was just like, I'm done. I am not going any further. I'll see you when you get back. And I just said to her, you can do this. Let's do this, right? We can do this. And so I would just be like, okay, let's just make it to that rock. And we would go to that rock. And then I'd take the rock and I'd pick it up and I'd throw it. And I'm like, we didn't make it. We've got to go to the rock. And it was really beautiful. What my mom didn't realize is I was actually like super exhausted myself. And if it hadn't been for her, like, I probably would have made it, but it wouldn't have been as fun without her. I was really, like, we were both motivated together to get to the top. And we just took that one step at a time and overcame that really hard thing. And the other thing about overcoming anxiety is you really, like, it's so much easier when you bring someone in and allow them to help you, right? And we made it to the top, and it was dang beautiful. It was so pretty, and it was such a great accomplishment. And, that's the last time that I ever got to do that with my mom. We have never done that again, and I'm just grateful for that experience that we had together. There has to be, like, dealing with anxiety on your own is just so difficult, and there's such a joy that can come from opening up to someone, and they don't even have to like solve your problem for you, right? It's just beautiful to talk about it and get it out and release things, right? And so, that would be some advice that I would give for overcoming anxiety, is bring someone along with you. And it's easier now, especially where we're so connected with the internet and, communication. It is so much easier now. Well, easier and harder if you're willing to pick up a phone and call rather than text. But find someone that can help you with that anxiety and help you overcome it. Okay, now I've got an exercise for you. So I'm really excited about this exercise, and part of the reason why I had kind of been planning to do this podcast later was because I wanted to read the book that was associated with it. And basically, this is a modality that will help you to be able to release some of that anxiety, stress, past annoying feelings that you would like to get rid of, that might be just kind of like hanging around in you and you would like to just get rid of. And so I actually know the author, and her name is Ali Duzette. And originally, I'm in her Facebook group. She is an intuitive energy healer, which is not, it's something that I've probably participated in the past. It's not something that I think I would in the future, which is not me condemning it or anything like that. It's just I've moved on to just different things. But before I had left that group, I came across a video, and it's called Scribbling, and it's basically this modality that Ali developed to be able to get rid of some of the negative energy in your body. And I watched her video, and I was kind of like, that's interesting. And I kind of was like, okay, I'm gonna just try it. So I came downstairs and I got this notebook, which I had been kind of saving because my niece had given it to me, and it's special. It's got a llama corn and it's really cute. And I was saving it for just the right opportunity, and I felt like I had finally found it. So I pulled out this book, and I had been feeling all of these feelings. I had recognized that in my life I had been feeling resentful a lot, and I wanted to get rid of it. So I was going to test it with this modality. I mean, I had just been like, I'm talking like I wanted to get rid of stuff clear back when I was little and being resentful about not going to Disneyland, which is just so silly, right? To my, teenage years when my best friend wanted to hang out with her boyfriend instead of me, and, silly stuff like that. I wanted it all gone, and I wanted to be done with resentment. And so, basically how it works is you take, I'll give you kind of a little, you can kind of see some of my scribbles. But basically you identify the feeling, and then you write down the feeling that you're feeling, and then you sit and you scribble. And you scribble, and you're getting rid of all of that negative energy, and you're getting it out, and it's so therapeutic because you're just sitting there scribbling. And it was really funny because when I did it for the first time, I was sitting and I was watching a show with my husband, And I had identified the feeling that I wanted to get rid of. It was probably something like not going to Disneyland. Yep, see right there, not going to Disneyland. And I was scribbling. And then all of a sudden, I did the thing. You know that you're complete when you start making this circle. Do you see this circle right here? And you can see it on the scribbling. This was mine from last night. Anxiety over the current situation. And I started to scribble. I started to kind of make circles right there. And you know you're done when you start to make those circles. And it's crazy because you totally make the circles. And then there's this feeling of complete. I'm done. I feel complete. I don't feel bad about that anymore. It's gone. It's my past. There's no reason to feel regret about it. There's no reason to feel stress or anxiety over it. It's gone. Of course, then I had moved on to, I'm pretty sure it was something like kids not picking up after themselves, like feeling resentful over that. And I'm scribbling and scribbling and scribbling and scribbling. And then all of a sudden I look down and I'm just like, oh, just scribbling like crazy. And I'm like, wow, like that is some very intense feelings and emotions coming out of my body right now. And then sure enough, then I started to do the circles and I was like, oh, yeah. And so that's kind of the end at where she is done. Like when you've done that, then you're done. And you can go watch that video. I'll put it in the comment or in the description. It's a great video, and it's so crazy that such a funny little thing can be, so incredibly helpful. And I just really have found that it is. And I feel like I just wanted to tell people, like I wanted to tell my really good friends, this has been so helpful. And I had one good friend that was like, this is like, I'm going to use this with my kids. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to totally teach this to my kids. And without going into too much detail, one night my son, he had actually been very frustrated because of an interaction that he had with another person in our family. And he was very frustrated, very, very frustrated. And it was bedtime and he needed to go to bed, but you could tell I went down there and he was totally razzed. And so I pulled it out and I gave him, a piece of paper and told him what to do. And he's like, okay, whatever. Like I'm willing to do anything right now because I'm just frustrated. And so he did it and was able to kind of like process that and work through it and go to bed. And since then, he has his own notebook, and my daughter has her own notebook. And I got to tell you, I haven't really talked to them very much about it, but I do know that, I talked to my son the other day, and he said it's been really helpful for him. And what a great way to help your kids kind of work through some of their icky feelings that they might be having just because of school, or, there's just like a lot hovering on this generation of kids that we're raising currently. There's so much weight on their shoulders. Anyway, so before I move on, I want to kind of put this disclaimer out there. And this is really important to me. I've kind of gone back and forth how much I'm going to talk about like spirituality and religion and Christ and God. And I made the realization last night that is very much who I am, and that's very much a part of me. And so to leave that out of something that means so much to me, that this podcast really does, I feel like it would do a disservice to me and for the people that I want to reach. But I decided that I'm going to leave, those kind of discussions towards the end of my podcast. So if that's not something, if you have a different belief system, then, this is time that you can turn it off and move on and go do something else. But if it's something that you want to be a part of and listen, then I would encourage you, to keep going with this current podcast. But so I just kind of want to talk about how I took this scribbling just a teeny bit further. And I feel like I'm going to actually do a different video on this method because I feel like I've kind of built on it a little bit. I don't know if that's okay or not okay, but I did. And so part of me was like, okay, I've got this thing out and now I've got to put something back in, right? Because it's almost like when you let something out, there's a hole, right? And you have to put something good in it and then cover it up. And so I was thinking about how I could do that. And I decided that when I scribbled something out, I was going to write something positive underneath the scribbling to put back in. So for instance, my one that I did on not going to Disneyland, I put, it's okay to not get everything you want. So I take out that feeling frustrated, put in something good, and then I felt it really important to cap it off, right? And so how I do that in my life is through the use of the atonement. And I don't think that I really understood, how I could use the atonement in this way. Asking, especially with all of the stuff that I was doing with being resentful, that's something that I wanted to get rid of and not have anymore. And really, that's a hard emotion to conquer and overcome because it's so easy to want to be resentful over so many different things. And so I felt very strongly that I needed to include prayer in the process and asking, my Heavenly Father or God to help me, overcome those feelings and then no more. Put a cork in it. Don't let those good feelings out and don't let those negative feelings back in. And I found with this process, it takes you even so much further, adding in something really positive at the end that maybe you might have learned or something that you might have thought of while you're processing and getting, those scribbles out. I just want to give you another example, like a really good one, frustration over a dirty house. Like this is a really good one. I had to scribble it because I get anxiety from knowing that there's dog hair all over my carpet because I have this beautiful dog that I just love so much now. It was really hard to overcome allowing, a dog to become a part of our family just because of my anxiety over just dirty and messiness. It's already tough with 5 children. Add a dog in there and it's really hard. And so I decided that I was frustrated because my house was so dirty and I couldn't overcome it. So I was scribbling, I got done, and then I wrote out these things. I can do what I can do, and that is enough. There's time to get things that I need done. I have plenty of time to do what I need to get done. I don't need to get done what I need to do today. I can do it tomorrow, so I don't need to do it today. It's okay if it gets done tomorrow. I can have patience with people who frustrate me, right? And so that's my exercise that I've been using. So I'll just review it one more time. Recognize the feeling that you're feeling. Write it down. Scribble, scribble, scribble until you get those circles. Think about something positive that you can insert that instead, right? Change your thinking. And then a prayer to God, or even if that's just a meditation, if it looks like a meditation, just you could even be, just sitting and meditating and, imagining light coming into your body and sealing it off, whatever you need to do to replace that negative feeling with something, good, and then seal it off and be done with it, right? So this exercise has been just really immensely helpful to me. And I'm still going to read the book because I'm pretty sure I had a conversation with her about it because I had wondered where she had found this method, and I wanted to just kind of understand, and she told me that it was in the book. So I'm excited to read the book. I feel bad that I kind of, glossed over it, but even just going and watching her video is really super helpful to understand how it works. Anyway, to be continued about the book. I'm still going to read it because I would like to know. But anyway, I hope that this talk on anxiety today will help you to want to move forward one step at a time and be able to deal with some of those stressful things. It all comes down to just identifying these things in your life. That's what it's all about. That's what we're here for in this life, to learn how to overcome hard things, to become whole people, to find ways to have joy. And I hope that you guys can do it. And I hope you have a great week, and we'll see you next time.